Our society has misunderstood people who choose to be alone for many years. Social science and psychology have described them as isolated or secretly problematic. However, research conducted in recent years shows that being alone is not the same as loneliness. For some people, it is a choice, an investment in the self. Philosophy, on the other hand, has known this for a long time. Stoics and existentialists pointed out how solitude strengthens a person and prepares them to walk their own path in life. Throughout this video, we will explore the psychological, philosophical, and even cultural aspects of being alone. Why do some people truly prefer solitude, and how does it create strength in their lives? Let's find out together. A few years ago, a group of psychologists at the University at Buffalo conducted a new study. They first sought to answer this question: why do some people simply prefer to be alone? It turned out that this choice was not driven by fear of others or by emotional damage. They chose solitude because being alone brought them a sense of comfort. Psychologists demonstrated that this phenomenon is not social withdrawal, but rather a voluntary preference for solitude. There is a clear distinction between the two. Being asocial is something different. It implies active dislike of or hostility towards social interactions. Avoidance, on the other hand, stems from fear and anxiety, such as staying away from people due to social anxiety. The research findings showed that these individuals were not socially deficient at all. On the contrary, they were functioning very well. For them, being alone acts like a superpower, creating a favorable environment for creativity, introspection, and emotional balance. As you know, dopamine is the chemical in the brain associated with feeling good. Extroverted people mainly get this feeling from social interaction. Laughter, noise, and social energy create a strong dopamine response for them. In other words, they need more stimulation in order to feel good. For people who enjoy solitude, however, this system works a little differently. Their dopamine system is more sensitive, meaning that even a small amount of stimulation is enough for them. Imagine it like this. Some people want to go outside in winter, walk around, and directly feel the weather to understand what it's like. Others can simply look out the window and already sense how the weather affects them. The psychology of someone who enjoys solitude is similar. Such people can feel happy just by reading an interesting book. And if there is no book, even a single engaging thought can be enough. Something they can analyze in their mind, apply to a task, and explore further. Research has shown that when these people are alone, the part of the brain called the prefrontal cortex becomes more active. This area is responsible for thinking, self-analysis, planning, and solving complex problems. So when you see someone who is used to being alone, you might think they are wasting time doing nothing. In reality, the opposite is true. In these moments, their brain begins to operate at a much deeper level. Long-term studies on writers, painters, composers, and scientists have shown that most of them tend to work at night. During this time, the surrounding world becomes quiet, the mind turns fully inward, and as a result, new ideas and discoveries emerge. It is no coincidence that many geniuses, such as Einstein and Newton, did their most important work while working alone. Some minds simply function better in silence. I know that many of you will immediately agree with this idea, that when a person is alone, the mind works better and thinking becomes clearer. So pause for a moment, take a breath, and ask yourself this question. Do you choose solitude or are you running away from it? This is where the real reality begins. Because unpleasant as it may be for many people, this is a truth. Some people do not accept solitude. They fear rejection and exclusion. But if you have ever experienced solitude, you know that these feelings can still arise. In reality, you are not drifting away from society. You are moving toward yourself. So the real question is not whether you like being alone, but why you like being alone. If your answer includes words like to recover, to create, to think, to process, then there is a high chance that you are in a healthy zone of being alone. But if your answer revolves around words like safer, easier, less painful, then that may be something worth exploring further. Now, let us take a look at the world of people who truly value solitude and draw strength from it. Because they already know this. Living alone does not mean feeling incomplete. Notice the language often used when talking about relationships. My other half, my missing piece. You are incomplete without me. It is as if we are all fragments of a broken mirror, and only by coming together can we be whole. But people who embrace solitude approach this idea from a completely different angle. In reality, I was never incomplete. What is interesting is that this is not just about self-confidence. It is something deeper, self-knowledge. When a person truly knows themselves, they are not afraid of being alone, because they know there is nothing in their inner world that they can lose. Long-term research by psychologist Dr. Bella DePaulo from the University of California reveals an important truth. Single people who accept solitude often have richer friendship networks, healthier family relationships, and broader social connections than those who are married or in romantic relationships. At first glance, this may seem surprising, but the reason is quite simple. These people do not place all their emotional needs on one person. They do not expect everything from a single relationship. Constant understanding, constant validation, constant filling of inner gaps. This approach does not exhaust relationships. They do not become dependent. On the contrary, they enter connections with a healthier distance and clearer intentions. They form relationships not out of need, but out of choice. And this leads to a very important insight. The quality of the time you spend alone directly affects the quality of the relationships you build with others. When a person first learns to be with themselves, to recharge, to calm their thoughts and reduce internal noise, they enter social interactions more fully and attentively. Such people do not engage with others in a depleted state. They do not cling to someone to escape sadness, emptiness, or exhaustion. They are not searching for someone to fill a void because they have already filled it themselves. Perhaps the greatest strength of this approach is precisely this. A person first spends genuine time with themselves, and then approaches others not as a half, but as a whole, complete individual. In Japan, there is a unique approach to solitude. They call it hitori, which means being alone. Interestingly, this is not only accepted, but even respected. Everyone understands that you have your own world, a space where it's just you and your thoughts. And within these thoughts, you find happiness. It is no coincidence that in this East Asian country, society does not overlook those who enjoy solitude. There are single-person seats in cinemas, solo karaoke booths, and more. This reflects a culture that considers spending time with oneself essential. In the West, however, this culture is often met with surprise. Going somewhere alone within a social setting can make people curious, and they immediately want to ask, "Why are you alone?" It's as if being alone somewhere is somehow unacceptable. If you truly enjoy solitude, take a moment and permanently write this in a corner of your mind. You are not strange. You are not broken. Don't think that something is missing in you. Some people thrive in noise while others flourish in silence. You are better in solitude because you make this choice in a healthy way. Not out of fear, not out of escape, and not out of necessity. You choose to be alone because it clears your thoughts, restores your energy, and strengthens your connection with yourself. And most importantly, remember this. Even when you are alone, you are not lonely. Before you stands the one who will walk with you for life, who knows you best, and who never leaves your side, even in your quietest moments, your own self. Montaigne, Thoreau, Emerson, they all said the same thing. Sometimes our most valuable friend is ourselves. And that says a lot.